Hi guys, welcome to the live here. This is Super Tuesday in 2033. Oh my god. Hello guys, welcome. This is TNN Super Tuesday 2032 live stream. We have very special guest Owen Haley. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'll do it quickly because I have to do something. Hi, I'm Owen. I used to work for TNN. I'm back. I was gone for a while. Sorry about that. But I'm back to stay, guys. So if you remember me from past streams, I'm him.
Well, thank you for coming back. We really appreciate it. So that's in my room because I'm using that for my hands.
It's not yours. It's
Okay. Okay.
Don't touch it.
Okay. Anyway, my dad is angry about his own little Vaseline. So anyway, besides that, we're gonna go look at the result and just see what it is that we're looking at here. So right now we have the Republican primary and the frontrunner Lee Deldon actually at 114 delegates to John Supel with 32.8% with 48 delegates. Scott B. Bennett, who is the far right candidate and has been running re-election and has 17 delegates, and Ira Smith, the centrist candidate, only has 13 delegates at this moment in the point in time for the Republican primary. Now, for the Democratic primary, we have Nathan Delaney, I think it is, and he is a center-left candidate with 115 delegates. Andy Bashir, who is the left candidate, who has 106 delegates, to Philip Reed, who dropped out with only just 46 delegates, and uncommitted with 6 delegates as well. Eleanor Templeton has yet to gain any delegates, whether or not Templeton is able to gain any tonight. That is the question on everybody's mind. We all know how it went back in 2028. We all know how it goes now. What is the story and what is it that we're going to be expecting? Come the presidential election result, though, the two candidates that are already on the ballot and have ballot assets and are expected to be in the 2032 election, if everything holds and they continue to campaign, we can expect Meadow Crusader for representing from the state of Florida, and he is the right candidate, whereas Kamala Harris is from California, and she is representing the center left. Meadow Crusader is representing the Libertarian wing, while Kamala Harris is representing a new party within American politics as the Forward Party. We're yet to be determined whether or not Democrats or Republicans can choose their nominee. Tonight, we will find out who is leading in the majority of the states, and with all that information, we might just know who might be front runner. Who do you guys think is going to win so far? What is your prediction? Who do you think is going to be the nominee Democrat and the Republican going into the 2032 election? What do you say, Owen?
Well, let's start with the Republican nomination because this is kind of big now. It started from Shamrock, then went to Tulsa, Amy, and then it went to a open primary, basically. And
Right.
if you look at the Republican results, after South Carolina, it's been a big lead for Lee Zeldin, and I think Lee Zeldin could pull it off, even if he loses a lot of states. If he gains a lot in Texas, and California's close, he's good. If he just pulls well in open primaries, and at least do somewhat good in closed primaries, he could win. And for the Democrats, it's going to be very close. I don't think we can declare it until probably next live stream, like tomorrow. That's how close I think it's going.
Well, I do want to make sure that is told. Well, it's possible we could go live if Lee is delayed. We could go live for the final Super Tuesday results. That is very possible, but as of right now, there is no live stream at the moment. But hey, listen, if tonight goes well and it is still very competitive, I can make sure I can be at work and home by no more than 10:30, and then we might just have to do the final last 16 states. is basically eight states remaining for the Democrats and 8 states remaining for the Republicans, just so we can declare who the front runner is and who's going to be the nominee. Leo, I did not post the announcement because I've been trying to find access to like post on the Discord group, and I completely forget every time I do this video and live. I forget where to post it, so I'm just gonna let you do that whenever you get a chance. Okay, so let's take a look at the 2028 presidential election and the primary results for that election. Let's take a look and compare it to what we know now and the trend that we see currently, and can compare it to the past and see if maybe we can get a clear indicator on who the nominee might actually be. Okay, so we actually had in 2028, we actually have Rainbow Dash, who was elected president and was not endorsed by the current president at this point in time because he felt like she was not going to be a good president. So everybody can now say that that is indeed the facts. However, at the time, no one had believed it because they want to just ensure that there was a way to win. So at this point in time, she was able to help the Democrats win with exactly, and I'll quote here, 389 electoral votes, the Republicans got 149 electoral votes. Basically maintaining the blue wall of the Oliva coalition. She has been able to maintain that, which is quite impressive nonetheless. But also when it talks about more about Leonard Kim, who was vice president at this time, he put up quite the fight with only just 33.9% 33.9% of the popular vote, but was able to gain and garner enough of the delegates, but not enough to be able to clinch him the nomination. However, when we go to the GOP primary, we can see that Lisa Maya won astoundingly with 60.3% of the popular vote, winning almost insanely well in terms of the delegate count. Jeffrey Lee having more than 5 million votes, but only getting 295 delegates and only 30.4% of the popular vote. Which is really interesting because when we compare this now to, just say, 2032, and we look at the results here, let's take a look at the primary results. We have Lee Delton, who was already flipped South Carolina, Michigan, which means that already we are seeing a Republican primary become more competitive, whereas the candidate here, Lee Delton, is at 45.6% of the popular vote, with John Stupel at just 32.8%. So let's compare this back to 2028, and we can see here that Jeffrey Lee's at roughly around 30.4%. So Jeffrey Lee for John Stupel, he's overperforming Jeffrey Lee, but he's underperforming. So John Stupel is overperforming Jeffrey Lee margin, whereas Lee Delton is underperforming Louisa Meyer, which is why we see more of a competitive race. The polls have indicated that. This is not a surprise nor a shocker. But let's take a look and let's dive more into the Democratic primary. So when you look at the Democratic primary, you start to see the results with Nathan Delaney versus Andy Beshear. You start to see a very similar dynamic. So let's compare this back to 2028 for the Democratic Party results in that election. We have Michigan go to who ended up losing the primary. So if we were to look in 2032, we had Nathan Delaney winning the seat in Michigan. So if the way that Michigan goes, maybe it may foretell who may win or lose the primary in the Democratic Party. But right now, Leonard Kim got it, Delaney got it. However, in this election in 2028, South Carolina was very close. And so even if South Carolina was very close, these two states alone in the Democratic primary might be key indicators on who's going to be the front runner. What do you say to this, Owen?
Well, with the Democrat primary, it's kind of like the same thing from last time. It was super close, but then it slowly dingled down into like one candidate. And I really think the Democrats could go Andy or Nathan. It's really up to anyone. Anything can happen. Templeton would be lucky to even get a delegate in Super Tuesday because she's been doing super well compared to last time. If you check last time, she did actually good, but if you look right now, she's David Richard delegate.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look now. Let's see 2028. So in 2028, Eleanor Templeton only got 6.7% of the popular vote, but got 40 delegates. So, do you think that in 2032 that Eleanor Templeton might be able to increase that margin? Because as of right now, the popular vote looks relatively similar to where she was back in 2028. The only exception is she did not get 40 delegates. She is still at 0.
See, I just think all the things that happened, or all the campaigning with her, and the Republicans bash, and like, what's the point of voting for someone that is literally on last place behind uncommitted? It's literally a joke now. She's deep performing and doing more so than uncommitted. So people would rather vote for nobody compared to her. And even somebody who dropped out is doing better than her. And it's like an entire joke. And I think a lot of people won't stop voting for her after Super Tuesday if she does still very bad.
That's right, because in 2028, the uncommitted vote only got 0.6% of the popular vote, with only one delegate. In this current election cycle, uncommitted got 3.3% of the vote with delegates, which means that uncommitted is now overperforming its margin. So if this continues going into this election, we might see increase in the we might see an increase in the uncommitted vote here. Right now, we're seeing the vote tally starting to change. Right now, let's take a look. Let's see what that new margin is. So as of right now, based on how the data is going and how it's changing, we're already seeing a dynamic where uncommitted is still being consistent with 3.4% of the vote. What's wrong with you?
Wait, what state's going on right now?
What do you say?
Alabama. Okay. Alabama just reported.
Okay, let's take a look in the state of Alabama. So we can now project that Andy Beshear has won the state of Alabama. So let's take a look at the state of Alabama. So we can now project that Alabama has been won by Andy Beshear with 43.59% of the vote, with 26 delegates, and Nathan Delaney at 43.30%, with 26 delegates as well, with Eleanor Templeton just at 8.81% and 0 delegates, but uncommitted, not too far behind Templeton with just 4.3%. Which is kind of crazy when you start to look at the results here and you start to see like how close Alabama is. That is very shocking. Let's take a look back in 2028 and see what was the result for Alabama back in 2028. So let's take a look. So in Alabama, between Rainbow Dash, the former president, and Lenore Kim, the former vice president, we can have here that the Rainbow Dash has won Alabama by a mere 25 percentage points. However, Rainbow Dash did not get anything above the 50% threshold. She just got the mere minimum for a majority. When we look back in the 2032 election, which is right now currently ongoing, it is practically tied between these two. It is practically tied. You cannot get any closer than this. I'll be shocked if another state is close. But it's safe to say that Alabama is one of those decisive states. It was not that decisive back in 2028, even though the candidate won by 25 points. That is considered a lopsided election. However, in this cycle, Alabama is still under the threshold of 50.1%, which means that Alabama is one of those states that swings according to the trend. So as of right now, I would probably say that Andy Beshear is currently on track to become the front runner, but it's too early to call. What are your thoughts on the trend at the moment?
I think I'm just right. My prediction so far, it's super close in the Democrat primary, and it's still unconclusive. Anybody could win.
Right. No, absolutely. You are 100% right. Anybody and everybody could indeed win. It's still too early to call because we still have a couple more states to call. We are waiting to hear from the Lenore Kim campaign and from the AP projection, but we're going to go see if there's any results coming out of the Republican primary so far. So as of right now, we don't have as much information yet from the Republican primary, but see Lee Delden here, you're here with us tonight as Owen. Owen, on behalf of Lee Delden, do you want to make a statement on whether or not you believe or you have confidence that you are going to be winning tonight, or you might be considered a front runner, or you think this race might be too close to call?
I'm not gonna toot my own horn here, but like I think I'm going to win Alabama. I really think I'm gonna. The primary will still be close, but not as close to the Democrats, definitely.
Right. Okay. And according to polling data, you don't really lead by a lot. Sometimes, occasionally, you will see, your polls. You'll be leading one way, you'll be leading the other way. Do you believe that TNN or what's it called, another Kim's polling data? Do you think it's more accurate, or you think it might be leaning a little bit one way or the other? What are your beliefs on that?
Listen, most of Leo's polls projected I'll lose a lot in South Carolina. The major defect, they thought I was going to at least win like 3 delegates. I swept it if you could show South Carolina.
So let's go take a look at South Carolina. Let's see how you did, and we'll compare it to Louis and Maya and see whether you performed just as even, whether or not you overperformed or underperformed Louis and Maya. So let's take a look in the state of South Carolina for you right now. So in South Carolina, you just got the bare minimum of just 50% threshold with a 25, a 25% margin, which is roughly around what we expected with the Alabama race with Rainbow Dash, right? That's what happened back then. So let's take a look at 2028, and let's take a look at the Republican result of the GOP primary in the state of South Carolina compare. So in South Carolina, you actually overperformed Louis and Maya by 5 percentage points, while Skylar B. Bennett, who was just behind him with 30% of the popular vote, but 50% margin for Louis and Maya, you have a 25% margin, which means you increase Louis and Maya's edge. But also note that as well that John Stubble is underperforming the margin of Skylar B. Bennett, which means that South Carolina is still, again, a competitive state for the Republican primary, but nonetheless, you are overperforming by 5 percentage points to Louis and Maya. Do you believe that that is going to be translating in tonight's election, and whether or not you are going to see that?
I think in a lot of open primaries, I have the edge in, realistically. Closed primaries, in Michigan, I was not thought of winning it. If we can show it, it's a landslide somehow. I did not know I could win Michigan. I thought I would at least lose it by a close margin. I had the same margin of South Carolina. Well, close to it. It was close to it. Just John wasn't 20%. It was basically, it's not open primary, but I still won it. And it surprised me, realistically. Even after Nevada. Nevada also.
Right. So let's take a look. Hi, John. So let's take a look at the Michigan result in 2020, and let's make a comparison here. So let's take a look at Michigan back in 2028 with Louis and Maya. He has 60% of the vote, with Jeffrey Lee at only 30% of the vote. Let's take a look at how you're performing. Right now, you have only 50% of the vote. Well, I don't know why it keeps showing us what Leo's doing, but John Stubble only has 33.3% of the vote. So if you look at the margin here, compare it between the two, John Stubble is overperforming Jeffrey Lee in the state of Michigan, while you are underperforming Louis and Maya by 10 percentage points, which tells me already that this race is not yet over and that you actually could very well lose Alabama, which as of right now, we can now project that you have lost Alabama. John Stubble has picked up Alabama's delegates in the state of Alabama. Let's see the margins here. Right now, John Stubble has won the state of Alabama with 21 delegates, to Lee Delden 18 delegates, and committed at 11 delegates. John Stubble won with 33.57% of the vote, to Lee Delden at 33.02% of the vote, and only uncommitted at 20%, and Skylar Bennett and Ivan Smith roughly around 6.7% of the vote with that margin in range. So it is very interesting to see how Alabama compared to 2028. So let's take a look in Alabama. Okay, Alabama only went to Louis Amaya by 42.1% to Jeffrey Lee 36.8%, with uncommitted only at 5.3%. If you look at the uncommitted vote here, uncommitted got roughly a huge chunk of the popular vote with 20% of the vote here and got 11 delegates. Do you believe that there's a possibility that that uncommitted could be actually be the front runner tonight?
Okay, just saying that, it would one never happen. I don't think it's possible realistically, because one, uncommitted doesn't have enough ballot access on enough states. Second, I really don't think they would. I think because Alabama was close on both primaries, meaning people were split, but really, this primary was close too. And even if you look at the lead right now, I'm still leading. Because of the South Carolina and Michigan win, I still have that bump, you know?
Right. And do you think that the
It basically gave me
on your side for Super Tuesday, or you think you might lose this?
I think I still can do it. Never give up. Just saying. You should never give up that quickly.
And do you have confidence in your campaign right now? A lot of people are saying that you're not very well known for how do we say this? Campaigning a lot or even often compared to how you were doing in prior elections. Do you still feel like people are misjudging you in some ways? So
I think they misjudging because it's because this was the Christmas season. I had to do a lot, buy Christmas gifts and do stuff, so I couldn't be as much active as I wanted to. My laptop charger broke, so I had to lose an Xbox for like a week. That's why I couldn't campaign a lot. And I lost my charger again and had to wait until I got a new one. So basically,
you really need an Apple tag on your for your computer, just so you know.
I have a Windows.
Right. And so we do want to ask you, and I do have a question for you. So regarding all this, if you were to become the president, do you believe that what would you do as president? Since you are here tonight to do this interview.
A mini interview. I was not prepared for this at being sick, but okay. Just saying I have to go in like an hour because I have to go to bed because I've been up since like 5.
I'm sure everybody wants to hear what you have to say. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, I'll just try to continue a moderate policies, pretty much lower taxes, higher the minimum wage, not by a lot, by a slight amount, and in a debate, right? I just want to say this. John supports only abortion for like the mother's health and not like rape or incest, which I think is kind of basic, that abortion should only be allowed for rape, incest, or the mother's in danger.
Right, okay. So, I want you to finish this thought because you sound boring as hell, so let's finish this.
Sorry, I'm just very sick and I'm very been tired. I've been up.
I mean, you're talking like a regular Republican. We want some spice to it. Is there anything that you can say that, you as president will do differently than your predecessors, even Trump? Anything spicy in particular that we can actually note? Will you commit more crimes? Would you Monica Lewinsky? What are you going to do? What's going to be spicy to tell the viewers?
None. Why would I do that?
Well, with this accent, right? After all, it is an interview with the president of Canada who's on the ticket tonight, right?
Yeah, but like, why would I do one of Monica Lewinsky?
I don't know. Anyway, let's take a look back. Let's take a look back at the 2032 Democratic primary. Let's see if we get any more results in. We have not got any results yet out of the state of Alaska. Let's take a look at the presidential approval rating. I think that's going to be very important to note here. We actually have the average approval rating for the president right now. Currently, Democrat Tom Higgins, who took over for disgraced former President Rainbow Dash. Right now, Higgins is actually even. Higgins' approval rating is actually even at 41.4% to 41.4% disapproving, with undecided 17.4%. The vote is even, whereas for TNN, when our polling firm actually found out it was even, then Leo server and his polling data actually found it was even as well. So what do you say to the president's approval rating? You can kind of see how it went down. He was in a negative for quite a while. Then he went back up into the positives. But then, of course, the negative has started to take its turn, and it's been going around the even margin. What is your opinion on this? Just since the fact that the fact that the current president is currently right now even in terms of approval. What do you think this might mean going into the 2032 election, and what kind of effect would this have?
I think it might not really have an effect, but it could. Really, he's not on the ticket. Same with Philip, so there's no possible.
Well, you also must note as well, he was indeed planning to run for president, then he dropped out because he wanted his vice president, Philip Reed, to run, and then Philip Reed also dropped out because of, and he quotes, he doesn't have the time to do it.
Yeah, so basically.
So let's take a look at VP, current Vice President Philip Reed's approval rating. Right now, he's only approved by, on average, 20.7% to a high disapproval of 54.2%, but 25.2% undecided, with a net disapproval of 33.5%. On average, for Leo, he only found a 33% approve of the vice president, with 50% disapprove, and a net span of 17 disapprove, whereas TNN, our polling firm, found that only 8.3% approve of the vice president, with 58.3% disapproving, with a net span of 50 percentage points. Do you think that if just say Philip Reed was to stay in the presidential race, do you believe that 2032 would have been a favorable election for the Republicans and the Democrats? I mean, a very favorable election for the Republicans.
Chris, I have to go. I have to go to bed. I'm sorry, man.
No worries. No worries. Anyway,
yeah.
So let's look at the results here. We are going to now look at the next state of Alaska. So now we can actually project that Alaska has gone to Andy Beshear. Andy Beshear right now has 37% of the vote to Nathan Delaney at 42.9%. They are practically even. Nathan Delaney had decreased his margin, with Andy Beshear not too far behind. Let's go ahead and let's take a look in the state of Alaska, and let's see what the results are in the state of Alaska. So right now in the first round of voting, because no candidate reached 50% threshold, which means it goes to ranked choice voting. In Alaska, in the state of Alaska, right now, Andy Beshear got 46.7% from Nathan Delaney at 40%, with Eleanor Templeton just getting 13.3% of the vote here, not enough to be able to win or be able to make it into the second round. So now that Eleanor Templeton has indeed got eliminated out of the state of Alaska, her votes have now split evenly. Andy Beshear gets 60% of the vote here, only 40% going to Nathan Delaney. Andy Beshear gets 9 delegates from Alaska, whereas Nathan Delaney only gets 6 delegates, giving Andy Beshear an additional 3 delegates ahead of Nathan Delaney, narrowing that margin by a significant amount. So you can see that here in the state of Alaska. We are now going to head to the Republican primary to see if any data had came out of the state of Alaska. There had not yet been any data. Let's now head to the 2028 presidential election. Let's compare the results from prior elections. So in the state of Alaska, for the Democratic primary, Rainbow Dash only won this in the first round with 41.65% of the vote, to Lenore Kim at 41.67%, which actually means that the vice president actually had a very narrow lead in the state of Alaska compared to Rainbow Dash, when they both on all the other candidates got eliminated, and they went on to the second round here. Rainbow Dash won with 58.3%, and Lenore Kim at 41.7%. So we can definitely say that Andy Beshear is overperforming the former president in the state of Alaska, while what's it called? While Nathan Delaney is actually underperforming in the state of Alaska. So we can make that projection and make that call that Andy Beshear is overperforming in Alaska by less than 2 percentage points at this point in time. So let's take a look at the polling data and let's talk more about the polling. So in the 2032 Democratic primary, we actually had a lot of candidates join in, join out. It was a very chaotic run leading up into the election cycle. However, once the polls came in and the candidates started, emerging and solidifying their support and whether they are going to be engaged actively in the election, you can kind of see that the purple color represented Philip Reed, who dropped out with the current vice president of the United States with a high disapproval. He ended up dropping out of the race, and he was on track to win, at least temporarily, but towards the end of his campaign, he was indeed going down the dumps. However, right now we have the average for the 2032 Democratic primary election event polling. We can now say that Beshear has 49.9% on average, with Delaney at 33.4%, Templeton at 17.1%, with a net spread of Beshear 16.5%. For the TNN polling, though, it is even at 45-45, with 10% going to Templeton. It is near even. This is closed primary data. So this is what we expect the result to be in closed primaries, and kind of see, okay, so how are they performing in closed primaries? Is the poll here matching the result? When it comes to TNN results, though, we have 66.7% favoring Beshear and 11.1% favoring Delaney, with Templeton being by 22.2%, giving Beshear a net spread of 44.5%. However, in public polling data for Lenore Kim, he found that only 38% of voters favor Beshear, with Delaney being favored by 44% and Templeton around 19%. The average for Templeton in this aspect is 17.1% in the state of in average polling data for the Democratic primary. As of right now, Lenore Kim is projecting that Delaney is going to be expected to have on Super Tuesday a 6-point margin, whereas TNN is projecting that Beshear is going to have the lead, but there's nowhere going to be anywhere close to 44.5% when it's averaged out. So that is what we're expecting the polling data to look in terms of the Democratic primary. So now we can actually make a projection here. At least I hope so. Let's make a projection. Let's see if the Alaska results are in. It is not yet in. We made a false alarm, so we do apologize on your behalf. So we do apologize on your behalf. So let's talk about more about the Republican primary data, and let's see if we can compare that. So if we look at the 2032 Republican primary election results and the polling, you can kind of see it start to become more and more competitive. So even though the Republican Party looks more lopsided, it seemed to be a very competitive primary so far. Because we have Lee Delden on average at 33.6%, to John Stupel at 25%, to Bennett at 21.6%, and John Smith at 14.8%, only giving Delden a lead of only 8.6%. However, current states are actually leading, in particular to Lee Delden. We're going to see that whole night and whether or not he's going to be considered a front runner. When it comes to public Republican data, we have the Lee Delden be favored by just 29%, to John Stupel at 14%. Skylar B. Bennett, who ran in 2024 against former President Oliva and has lost the election by an enormous landslide. However, she is back in this race again, and she is getting 29% of the vote, with John Smith at just 14%. However, according to closed polling data, we have Lee Delden just in the lead with 44%, John Stupel at 22%, and Skylar Bennett at 22% as well, and John Smith at 11%, giving Delden a net lead of 22%. However, when TNN does the polling, they found that John Stupel is ahead with 30.9%, to Lee Delden at 27.8%, and Skylar B. Bennett at just 13.9%, as John Smith at 19.5%, giving John Stupel a spread of 11.1%. So that is what we see so far in the polling data. I find it really interesting how drastically different the results are, and for both candidates. So it seemed to be that Leo poll did not seem to match TNN poll, and TNN poll did not match in Lee Deldon. So now we can actually make a projection, a surprise projection here coming out of the state of Alaska. We can now project that Skylar B. Bennett has indeed won the state of Alaska so far with 14.2% of the popular vote. Let's take a look at Alaska's results. We have Alaska in the first round. We have Skylar B. Bennett at 33.5%. And Ivan Smith actually go into a head-to-head runoff with 33.25%. John Stupa was also tied here in the state in particular. However, because of if you have the least amount of delegates, you advance into the next round. In this case, Skylar B. Bennett and Ivan Smith were both low in terms of delegate count, and so those two have advanced forward into the second round. In the second round here, we can now project that Skylar B. Bennett has won the state of Alaska with 66.7%, winning all 19 delegates, compared to Ivan Smith only winning just 33.3% and getting 10 delegates, which means that those who voted for John Stupa and Lee Deldon, majority of them had chosen Skylar B. Bennett in the second choice to become the Republican nominee. So Alaska had not gone the first state to Skylar B. Bennett. So let's take a look at 2028 and let's see the results for the GOP primary and see if the results here in Alaska are the same. So in Alaska, we can now project that Lisa Meyer in 2028 has won that state by 55.6%, winning 16 delegates, and Jeffrey Lee at 44.4%, winning just 13 delegates, with Skylar Bennett getting 0%. So Skylar Bennett has obviously overperformed her margin in 2028 in the state in particular. They are overperforming that state. And they also actually overperformed Louisa Maya in the state as well. They overperformed this margin by more than 10 percentage points towards Skylar B. Bennett majority. So that is very interesting to see nonetheless. When you look at the results here and you start to see the trend, it's looking very likely that Lee Deldon and John Stupa and Skylar B. Bennett are matching very closely to the polling data. However, Ivan Smith being the outlier in this aspect. The question is, can Ivan Smith hold on tonight? That is something that is yet to be remained. So that is something that we are going to be looking at tonight and be asking the question, can John Stupa make a splash in this primary? Will he win any Super Tuesday states tonight? So that is what we are going to be looking at. So we don't have any projections right now out of the state of the Democratic primary. So we are going to continue forward talking about the polling data. So if we compare this back to the 2028 polling data for the Republican primary, you can kind of see how there was a clear lead, clear edge for the Republican primary. We had Jeffrey Lee narrowly in the margin here, and then you just see Amaya had the momentum. He just took off. He just took off in the Republican primary for the 2020 Republican primary. However, let's take a look at the Democratic primary polls here. Not the same story, but there was clear front runner. There was a clear front runner. Because you have here over this time, you kind of see like the vice president leading for majority. And then you start to see how all of a sudden, Raymond Dance is shut up and overtaken the former vice president in the 2028 Democratic primary. So if we start to compare this to the current Democratic primary polling data, we kind of see that that's not quite the story, but if all the trends are correct, it's going to be favoring Bashir. We're going to see if that is going to hold true tonight in Super Tuesday. So far, for the Republican Party, though, we're seeing, two candidates tonight so far has won a Super Tuesday state. But as for the Democrats, though, right now we can only make the projection that Andy Bashir is winning 2 Super Tuesday states. So far, is favoring Bashir. The question is, for how long, and will Bashir be able to hold on to that? Oh, actually, Skylar B. Bennett winning Alaska was definitely by far shocking. Wait, hold on, yellow. That was my response when I started in a little preview. Oh, they could have won Alaska. Exactly. It was definitely 100% unexpected. I did not expect Skylar B. Bennett to win there. I'm sure Skylar didn't even know that she even won. On behalf. We were experiencing some technical difficulty, but hopefully you guys are able to hear me and see me. So we are going to move on, head on in, and let's go to the next polling data. So I'm going to pull up the next former presidential election. We are going to look back at 2024 when the current incumbent president at that time, President Oliva, has won re-election and headed into his re-election bid. Let's see how he performed in the Democratic Party compared to his Republican predecessors, and let's see the comparison between the two and see whether or not the Democrats are overperforming his margin or underperforming the former president, and whether or not that might be a key indicator whether or not they are going to win the primary or not. So, or even better yet, election. So that is what we're going to be exploring right now. However, in 2024, we can say that the Republican primary was indeed competitive, very to the competitiveness that we are currently experiencing for the Republican primary in 2032. So let's take a look. So we're going to take a look at the state of Alabama. So the former president has won the state of Alabama with 63.6%, winning 33 delegates to Tulsi Gabbard, the centrist candidate, at 36.4% in the state of Alabama. If we compare this to the 2032 result in the state of Alabama, we are, in the state of Alaska, in the state of Alabama here, Andy Beshear underperformed the former president with 43.59% of the popular vote in the state of Alabama. So indeed, Alabama is one of those swingy states here that is very shocking nonetheless, but it seems to be showing trend that is becoming more and more competitive as the election cycle goes on in the Democratic primary. You know, Alabama could be one of those swing states, and if the candidate doesn't win Alabama, they could lose the Super Tuesdays trend momentum going into this night, going into the primary. So this is something that's going to be very key and very noticeable. However, I see when I was looking here, we can now also make a projection here out of the state of American Samoa. The caucus had chosen Andy Beshear with 40.6% of the vote here to Nathan Delaney at 40.2%, with Eleanor Templeton getting just 9.8%, not getting any delegates here, and same thing for committed at 9.4%. Uncommitted doing very well in its election cycle in the Democratic primary. So this is very shocking nonetheless. However, we can now project that American Samoa has gone to Andy Beshear by a very narrow amount. So far, Andy Beshear is closing the gap between him and Nathan Delaney. Nathan Delaney got to hold on if he wants to become the next Democratic frontrunner. So this is something that's going to be really interesting to see. And so actually, let's compare American Samoa. Let's talk about American Samoa and let's see what the results were back in 2024 and 2028. So back in 2028, for the American Samoa results here, the former president, Raymond Dash, had won American Samoa by 41.9% of the vote here, only winning 4 delegates to Lenore Kim, the former vice president, getting 26.2% of the popular vote. When we compare this to the 2032 election, American Samoa got 40, well, actually almost roughly even. So they're roughly around 40% percentage between the two. So that was really interesting. So it looks to me that both candidates underperformed the former president. However, American Samoa is more competitive than it has been in the previous election cycle. Let's see if that is the same back in 2024. So in 2024, American Samoa has won to the president by 58.1% of the popular vote, and Tulsi Gabbard at 41.9%. So it seems to be that American Samoa, in terms of its competitiveness, chooses whether or not they want to give all their delegates to Tulsi Gabbard or the Oliva campaign. It has chosen 58.1% of the time to go to Oliva, the president, and Tulsi Gabbard, the one who was just running just for the hell of it. That is one of those states in particular that American Samoa has gone to Oliva with 58%. However, in every election since, American Samoa has gotten more and more competitive, and mostly on average, they seem to be winning American Samoa by 40 percentage points on roughly, with the 2024 election being the exception to this theory. But that is nonetheless still very interesting. So let's take a look at the results here on the map. We can say that Nathan Delaney is at 150 delegates to 144 for Andy Beshear. Nathan Delaney is still in the lead with the popular vote with just 42.9%, with Andy Beshear at 37% exactly, with Philip Reed at 10.2%, uncommitted, still above Eleanor Templeton in terms of delegate count. However, Eleanor Templeton has indeed increased her popular vote margin, which is 6.5%. However, let's take a look and see in the Republican primary here and see if there's any results or any data coming out. We can now say that there is no data coming out right now out of the Republican primary. Oh, hold on. Just fake news here, so we do apologize for that. We can now make a projection out of American Samoa caucus result. We can now project that Aaron Smith won his first state of the night, well, first delegates of tonight, or division, I don't even know, caucus, well, let's go with that, caucus. Ivan Smith has won this area by 36.97% of the vote, winning 4 delegates. John Stupel winning, excuse me, I don't know what just happened. He's just editing right now. Let's see. He won 36.97% of the vote. John Stupel at 36.36% with 3 delegates, and Lee Deldon at 24.85%. with winning 2 delegates at the so far. So now it appears to be that the race is still very much competitive, and Ivan Smith has won his first region game with Sarah Bennett. It means that Super Tuesday, as of right now, for the Republican Party, looks very competitive. We don't know if we're going to be even anything closer, anywhere closer to calling the front runner for the Republican Party. We can have a clear indicator who that might be, but we don't really know if we're going to be able to call a Republican primary. It might be dragged out a lot longer than anticipated. However, on the Democratic Party camp, we can definitely say that Bashir night is having a very good night for the Bashir campaign. The question is that going to hold on? We don't know if we're going to make that determination yet so far for the Bashir campaign, but we can indeed say that he is having a good night. He's sweeping every state so far, getting all the delegates that he needs to run up the numbers. It catch up to Nathan Delaney. The question is, can Nathan Delaney expand upon that gap, or will the gap narrow? That is something that we're going to be looking at tonight and see whether or not the gap is going to close. Yeah, so right now we have Lee Deldon still in the lead here with 135 delegates, John Stupel at 72, and Skylar Bennett at 36 delegates, and Ivan Smith at 27 delegates, and uncommitted at 11 delegates. So far, uncommitted is doing very well in both election cycles, particularly for the Democrats and the Republicans. We are seeing a very big push with uncommitted. Those are people in open primaries who are not choosing to help one candidate get the edge or the other, which is very interesting from past presidential election cycles where Republicans have engaged in picking certain candidates that were easier to beat, whereas the same would be said of Democrats who were picking easy candidates to beat back in 2024, 2020, and 2028. So it is very interesting to see that dynamic play out, who they choose. However, open primaries don't get to really pick the winner of the primary because a lot of those states are actually primaries or semi-open, which means independents can vote alongside party members, but it's not always common that you're going to see that. So let's see what the results coming in as the result here on your screen on the left side starts to enter in terms of the popular vote. We can definitely see here the margin starting to change and shift in terms of one candidate or the other, but it seemed to be that John Stupel is still behind in the popular vote and Lee Deldon is still very much ahead. Questioning he narrowed the popular vote. Is he's able to narrow the popular vote? He's able to close the delegate count gap, but we will see whether or not that is going to happen tonight. But as of right now, Lee Deldon is the front runner, but he has not won a lot of states tonight. If any, he has won none of the popular vote states tonight. So we will see if he's going to be able to hold on, or whether or not he's going to be able to hold on to that lead. But as of right now, we don't know who the Democratic. I mean, we know exactly who's going to be the Republican front runner in the 2032 election cycle. It might be too close to call for the Republican, which is very shocking nonetheless. Very shocking. Let's take a look at the GOP primary though in Alaska. In the state of Alaska here, we have Jeff Lee doing a complete surprise upset in this state here. This was the first state that he was able to win. He did a complete 180, surprised everybody. I guess Alaska seemed to be indicating same thing in 2020. Alaska is one of those surprise or shocker states that has been an upset. I guess we should have known that this was going to be one of those upset states, but in this aspect, it was not. But everybody seemed to forget that it was an upset state, and it was known for voting against the national trend of the frontrunner. In this aspect, in the election cycle, had chosen Skylar B. Bennett. So Jeffrey Lee had won the first round with 25.6% to Jimmy Carter with 15.4%. They both have advanced into the next round. I don't actually know why Jimmy Carter advanced, considering the fact that Diego and Mike Shepard were tied at 20.5% each, but somehow Jimmy Carter advanced, not. That's something that I'm still waiting to hear from on the Leo side when he made that projection or call back then. But however, Jeffrey Lee won that seat with 61.5% to Jimmy Carter at 38.5%. This is back in 2024. Let's see how Skylar B. Bennett performed compared to her predecessors in the state of Alaska. So she overperformed Jeffrey Lee by with 33.51%. And in the second round, she got 66.7% of the vote in Alaska compared to 2024 being just 61.5%. Skylar B. Bennett is overperforming in the state of Alaska, which is a great sign for her campaign. The question is, can she hold on to that momentum and move on forward? However, in the state of American Samoa, we have here Jimmy Carter only got 2.3% of the vote, but he was able to get the delegate count. The reason why you don't see the delegate count being accurate on your screen is because they allocated them towards Skylar B. Bennett and Jeffrey Lee to try to push one of them towards victory, to get them over the threshold needed to become the de facto Republican nominee in 2024. Was in this aspect, it had chosen Skylar B. Bennett. But in 2032, American Samoa had chosen Iron Smith. Again, it had chosen the purple color, which is Iron Smith in this aspect, and got 36.97%. Jimmy Carter in this district here, or in this area, region, or island, whatever you want to call it, got 26.5% of the vote here. So when you look at the results here, Iron Smith is overperforming expectations in American Samoa for the previous victor in that state. This was back in 2024. In 2028, we can kind of see here in American Samoa, Louis Amaya got 53.2%. He blew it out of the water. So American Samoa has tended to vote a particular way. However, Alaska in 2028 has voted with the trend. However, this was in a normal case where the Republican primary is not that competitive. However, under a competitive primary, Alaska seemed to be one of those upset states. The question is, will the next primary in the next election cycle, will it become a competitive primary? That we don't know whether or not we're going to be able to call that. So let's take a look at the 2032 results here. We have not got anything out of the state of California, which is a very big state. Let's take a look at the Republican primary in the state of California here. Mike Shepard won the state by 32% of popular vote. In 2024, we must also note that this was a redo election. This was the first turning point because there was actual fraud that was caught on in both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. There was foreign interference in the election and attempt to rig in favor of certain candidates, although the electoral margin in the Republican primary did not shift much, despite there being a reduction of around 50 to 60 people not voting in this election cycle during this redo. Mike Shepard pulled ahead with 32% of the vote in 2024. Fast forward to 2028 for the Republican primary in the state of California. Louis Amaya pulled ahead with just 50% of the vote here. Compared to 2024. In 2032, we are expecting somewhere within the competitive margin here. So in order for the candidate to pull ahead, but when the state of California, it's going to be most likely the front runner. However, they need to overperform Mike Shepard, but they can slightly underperform Louis Amaya and still get somewhat majority of the delegates that they need in order to become the front runner. That is something that we're waiting to see. However, for the Democratic Party side, though, back in 2024, the former President Oliva, he won the state, and this is during the redo election, he won the state of California roughly 80% of the popular vote. He had 339 delegates to Tulsi Gabbard's 85 delegates and only winning 20% of the popular vote. When you fast forward 4 years later in 2028, when you look at the Democratic primary results in the state of California here, the former vice president, won the state 47.6% of the vote here, winning only 134 delegates, and Rainbow Dash, the former president, winning 38.1% of the vote here, only getting 189 delegates, when Eleanor Templeton only got 9.5% and got 1 delegate from the state. However, we are expecting that if the margin were to hold, the Democratic nominee in the state of California, whoever wins California needs to increase the margin to the likes of which you would expect from former President Oliva. And if they are able to hold on to that seat and win it by a lopsided margin, that would put them well ahead. However, we are expecting the margin to be more closely to resemble 2028 than we are expecting to resemble 2024, because 2024 had a very popular former president. In this aspect, we have a very unpopular we don't have an unpopular we don't have an unpopular president, but we have a president who is not really disliked or approved of by wide margin. It's pretty much even. However, we do have a vice president who is highly disapproved at this point in time when the Super Tuesday effect is taking place. We don't know what kind of effect he's gonna have on this race here. He is hated by both the Democrats and the Republicans at this point in time. However, a lot of pollsters do not expect the former vice president or the current vice president polling to affect the outcome or the result. However, we don't really know that yet. We cannot make that determination. So we don't have anything coming out of the state of California right now, which is the next big state. That's the big one. Leonard Kim, if you are watching right now, when can we expect the state of California results to come out? We are still waiting for results to come from, he said after Arkansas. Oh, right. I skipped Arkansas. Oopsie. So we can now make a projection in the state of Arkansas. We can now project that Andy Beshear has also won the state of Arkansas with 40.39% of the vote here, and in 13 delegates to Nathan Delaney at 40.25% of the popular vote, winning yet again another state very narrowly. Nonetheless, it is still very important. What compared us to 2028 in the state of Arkansas? Former President Rainbow Dash had won the state of Arkansas by 47.4%. So Andy Beshear is underperforming the former president, but so is Nathan Delaney underperforming. They are roughly even. So Arkansas is one of those swing states in this election cycle for the Democratic primary. Let's go and take a look at the Republican primary and see if we can make a call right now in the state of Arkansas. So yes, we can now make a call in the state of Arkansas right now. We can now call that John Super has won his second Super Tuesday state of the night, winning just 33.3% of the vote here with 15 delegates. Khalid Delden not too far behind with 24.9% and winning 11 delegates. And Skylar Bennett at 25.1%, actually winning more of a popular vote margin in the state of Arkansas right now. We can now make that call. Excuse me. Yeah, so 25.1%. with 9 delegates, Skylar B. Bennett, and Iron Smith at 16.7%, with 5 delegates coming into the state of Arkansas at this point in time. So we can now make that call that Arkansas has gone to John Super by a very narrow margin, but nonetheless, it is still another state, another win for the John Super campaign. Lee Delden is still at 146 delegates to John Super at 87 delegates, 45 for Skylar B. Bennett, 32 for Iron Smith, and uncommitted at 11 delegates so far. So this is very interesting. It seems to appear that John Super seems to be winning some seats tonight. Lee Delden has not yet won any Super Tuesday seats tonight. So that is very interesting nonetheless. Because when you look at the results here and you start to compare the data and the data points, Arkansas Super won Arkansas just by roughly 8.2%, to Smith winning similar by 0.61%, and Bennett winning the state of Alaska by roughly an astounding margin of 33.4%. And Alabama going to Super by 0.55% of the vote. So it is very close and hotly contested in the Republican primary. When we start to look at the results here for the Democratic Party here, it is also very competitive. Both Alabama and American Samoa were very competitive, and so was Republican side. So it seemed to be that if it's competitive in the Democratic Party side, it's most likely going to be competitive for the Republican side as well. So that seems to be something that we are closely watching. We are still waiting to hear from the big state of California, which had a whopping amount of 424 delegates to call for the Republican Party here for the state of California here. Where the state here had 169 delegates to call. So whoever wins the state of California is going to have a really good night. So Lee Delden, if you win the state of California, you're going to be able to open up that gap and close the gap or expand that gap. If any other candidate beside Delden wins the state of California, they are going to reach up to or be right on the breathing neck of Lee Delden. For the Democratic Party, though, if whoever wins the state of California is going to have a very good night, because that is going to exponentially expand their delegate total. They're going to expand the delegate total. So California right now is going to be the one who decides who the front runner is going to be. So that is something that we are yet to be called, and that is something that's going to be very interesting. So let's take a look back at the 2020 results here in the state of California back in 2020. So let's take a look at the results then. Let's see if the results matches. So this is when former President ran in his first election cycle back in 2020. You can definitely see that, the early states like Michigan, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Iowa, and Nevada was favoring Jack Kidd, who withdrawn from it, but who was in the lead temporarily with 118 delegates total at the end of it. The former president who ran in his first term and first election cycle, who went on to win the presidency in 2020, despite the multitude of third parties running, he was able to win. However, he got 62.2% of the popular vote in the Democratic Party back in 2020. When you compare that to the results here, you look at the state of California. Let's take a look at the state of California. I think I skipped it. My apologies. Again, this is in 2020. Only 50% of the vote here went to Oliva back in 2020, was Jack Kidd getting 28.9% with 129 delegates, and Kim at 15.8% with 71 delegates. So if we're expecting a similar turnout, and based on how the other states are going with Andy Beshear and Nathan Delaney getting roughly around similar amounts, we can expect that the threshold will be a little bit less than what Oliva got in the delegate count in the first run for the presidency for the Democratic Party in 2020. However, Leonard Kim might be clearly indicating that if just say Templeton were to get roughly around 11% of the vote here, we can definitely guarantee that California is going to be providing, once again, more delegates to the Templeton campaign. And so now all Republicans, especially Vice Chairman Ford, is now going to be freaking out, because right now he always been advocating that, Templeton got no delegates, let's make fun of him. Now Templeton is almost guaranteed if he's able to get 11% of the popular vote in the California primary, he might very well win his very first delegates tonight. So that is something that we're waiting to hear from the state of California. This was the result from 2020. Let's take a look at the results here back in the Republican primary here for the state of California. You can definitely see here that Skylar B. Bennett won this state in the state of California by just 26.7% of the vote here in the state of California, only getting 45 delegates from the state of California. However, Donald Reagan got 20% of the popular vote in the Republican primary with 34 delegates, and Diego Ego got 13.3% and only got 22 delegates. So, and all the other candidates that you can see. So you can definitely tell here that if it's very competitive, we can definitely say that California allocates their delegates proportionally to the votes here. However, that is drastically different in California in 2024, where the former president, Oliva, when during his re-election campaign, won 80% of the popular vote. Pardon me 1 second. Apologize, I am back. Leo Podak, PS or John want to know if the results are out yet for the state. How many states are left to go? I don't think we have that many states left because if I do the math here correctly, we only call in half. Okay, so now we can actually make a surprise call right now out of the state of California. This has given us exponential lead to Nathan Delaney, despite him not winning majority of the states here. He has, however, pulled out a surprise win in the state of California. And then Shears hold on 1 second. Holding on to Delaney's surprise lead, ending Bashir's hold on the state of California and Super Tuesday. Delaney has won his first state of Super Tuesday tonight. So now we can project that Delaney has won the state of California right now. We can see the results still ticking in. He now has 407 delegates to Andy Bashir at 327. It's still a highly competitive race, but nonetheless, he expanded his lead in the popular vote margin and the delegate count total. So we can project that Delaney has won the state of California and with a 16% margin. Let's take a look at the results here in California. He won with 52% of popular vote, overperforming the former president in 2020. When you look at the results here in 2024, he underperformed the president in 2024, but back in 2028, he overperformed Leonard Kim, the former vice president, by roughly around 5 percentage points in 2032. So that is a great sign for the Nathan Delaney camp. If I were you, I would be cheering right now. This is a great sign for your campaign. This is going to add momentum to your campaign. If you're Andy Bashir and you are trying right now to understand what the hell will happen in the state of California in 2028, you are roughly performing similar to what the former president got in the state of California. However, you are also overperforming Rainbow Dash in the state of California. So yes, you are also overperforming. Excuse me, hold on. No, you were actually, we take that back. Andy Bashir is actually underperforming the former president. Why didn't that leave for Nathan Delaney? Nathan Delaney had not only overperformed the former president Dash, he's also overperformed Oliva in 2020, but had underperformed Oliva in 2024. However, let's take a look at the Republican Party side here, and let's see if any results have came out. However, we can now project that Templeton has won her first delegate of the night with 12% of the popular vote. Like we said, she needs to get roughly around 11 percentage points to be able to gain any delegates. She had won 9 delegates tonight, which means that now she is ahead of uncommitted for the first time that she's on Super Tuesday. This is a great news for the Templeton campaign. So let's take a look at the Republican primary here. Let's see if California has been called. It had not yet been called, so we cannot make that call. We're going to see if it has been called yet, though. No, California has not yet been called, so we cannot make that projection. However, let's take a look at the 20 result. It kind of matches kind of like what we were expecting. We're expecting California to be somewhat similar to 2020. Then 2028 with Louis Amaya running for the Republican Party primary. However, we can expect it to be somewhat similar to the primary back in 2024. And the state of California was also very competitive. So if this is more lopsided in its election cycle, then we can kind of say, okay, so whoever wins the state of California for the Republicans are kind of going to have the lead or the setup that they need in order to get to where they got to go. So Templeton won delegates in Arkansas and California. Thank you for that. Okay, so Maryland predictions said that Templeton won 6 delegates before Arkansas. I guess I did not see that, so I do apologize for that. To answer your question, I do think, because we already called, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a lot of states left to call, but we don't actually, we're going to do that tonight. So Virginia, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh my god, every time this gets edited, I can't even like stand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's 16, so it should be 8 state calls. So far we have called Alabama, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have called 5 states so far. We are going to call 3 more states tonight for the Democrats and the Republicans. Then we are expecting to end tonight. However, we'll kind of get a better idea and better understand who's going to be the front runner. Right now, we can make a clear projection right now, so we're waiting to see. We can now call the state of California for John Stupel. John Stupel has won the state of California and has taken the lead in the delegate count total. Let's see how he performed in the state of California. In the state of California tonight, John Stupel has won 50% of the popular vote in the state of California, with Lee Delton performing at 25% of the popular vote, and Skylar Bennett at 12.6%, and Iron Smith at 12.4%. What is oddly confusing, though, compared to 2028, we have a scenario where the Republicans here, oh, actually, no. So apparently the rules were very perfect. We do apologize on behalf of our viewers. So whoever wins the state result is not proportional. And for the Republican primary in California, if you win the popular vote in California, you win all of its delegates. So the winner-take-all system or winner-take-all delegate system. So that is what we're expecting in California. Whoever wins California, we're going to have all of its delegates. Very different than the delegate system for the Democratic Party in California. So Louis Amaya got 50% of the popular vote. When you compare that to 2032, John Stupel got exactly that much and exactly what he needed. He got 169 delegates, identical to what it was in 2024. So John Stupel got the vote he needed, the right percentage. He got what he wanted. He got it. However, when you look at 2024 results here, 2028, you look at Jeffrey Lee's margin with 35.5%. We can now project that, Lee Delton has underperformed that margin of Jeffrey Lee in the state of California. That's a big blow to the campaign right now. So you can definitely see, as we can call right now, you can kind of see projection being made. Lee Delton now in second place with 146 delegates. John Stupel at 256 delegates. He needs 1,214 delegates. He only needs less than 1,000 delegates to become the Republican presumptive nominee for president. However, for the Democratic Party primary right now, we have Nathan Delaney at 407 delegates. He needs 1,975 delegates to win the nomination. To Andy Beshear at 327. So that is very significant. This is a very good night for the Delaney camp and a very good night for the John Stupel camp. This is a very good night for the Delton camp that they have yet so far to win any states. In particular, this is a very bad night for the Lee Delton campaign. He's going to wake up tomorrow morning and see he is not going to be the Republican frontrunner anymore. This is shocking. It's not unsurprising, but it's very interesting how 2028 was able to match and mirror the result expected in 2032, which is very interesting to say. So California in the Republican primary is highly competitive, but not so competitive where it just picks one candidate. Whoever they picked it normally becomes the front runner. So we have 3 states left to call. So we are going to tell you what those states are right now in this very moment. We are going to go to the decision board and the decision desk. We are going to be calling tonight Colorado, Maine, and Massachusetts. Those will be the 3 final states, Super Tuesday states that will be called tonight. Lee Delton needs to win he needs to win all 3 of them in order to kind of make up the margin that he lost in California. For the Democratic primary, Beshear really needs to be able to win also Colorado, Maine, and Michigan. Excuse me, I botched that. He needs to win Colorado, Maine, and Massachusetts in order to make a dent and be able to take back what he lost in the state of California. So we will see if Delaney is able to hold on and is able to continue into this trend by picking up another state, or will it go back to Beshear? That is something that we're going to find out tonight, whether or not how the trends are going for Super Tuesday. We will see if we are going to see that again, the same trend for tomorrow night. that is something that we are closely watching. So, my viewers, how do you feel about the results so far? What do you see? How are you feeling? How confident are you? What are your emotions? Let me go and actually take a look in the Discord group. Let's see what everybody is saying. This is going to be very interesting to see how people are viewing it. So far we have a comment from a Republican saying from Political Junkin, who said that Templeton is hated everywhere. He also said that Democrats nominating Delaney is stupid. Right? We have Senate Minority Leader John Page saying it looks like Templeton has won some as well in terms of delegate count. Current Vice President Philip Reese had another tie between Andy and Nathan. He was very excited and ecstatic that Ivan Smith has won American Samoa, so that is something that he was excited about. We have here JCB with a very excited about Super Tuesday and the Super Tuesday results coming tonight. We have here Political Junkin, who is ready, unquote, he said here, ready to launch an uncommitted movement until Sobel and Delder start actively campaign. He is very dissatisfied with the Republican candidates, saying that they are both inactive and just that is something that we're seeing here. We do have here Nathan Delaney now being active, saying thank you to some of his supporters for winning California, which is a very big pickup. We also have here as well as, so that's it. That's really it. Right now, we have yet to hear anything from the Leo or the Lenard campaign. However, while we wait for the result in the state of Colorado, which I believe is where we're at right now, or the state, yeah. No, excuse me, we're waiting on Maine electoral votes here, delegates. Let's take a look and see how Maine voted. Because it's supposed to be Colorado, but I guess Maine is now up. Yeah. Let me just double verify that. Yeah, Maine is now up instead of Colorado. No, hold on. They just called Colorado. That's why I didn't see it. My apologies. So we can now make a projection in the state of Colorado that Bashir has won the state of Colorado with 31 delegates. He has won with 42.5% of the popular vote in the state of Colorado. To Nathan Delaney, 41.8% of the popular vote, with 30 delegates going to Nathan Delaney. And Eleanor Templeton at just 11 delegates. So Eleanor Templeton still able to hold on, able to gain another 11 delegates with 100% of the vote in right now. This is very close for the Democratic primary. Trevor needs to be able to get out their votes and turn out, but Bashir has yet so far had narrowed that gap a little bit to be able to gain some sort of edge against Nathan Delaney. The question is he going to be able to continue to trend? Nathan Delaney had lost his trend, but can he gain it back in the last two Super Tuesdays tonight? So can he gain that back? So let's compare that to the results back in 2028. Let's see how the Democratic Party did, and the contender here in the state of Colorado. Lenard Kim won Colorado with 43.8%, with 41 delegates. When you look this back up into 2032, let's see how he performed in Colorado. He got 42.55. So we can now state that Andy Bashir has underperformed the former vice president by less than a percentage point. But yet again, 1 percentage point can make a difference in terms of delegate count total. However, Nathan Delaney as number 2, he has overperformed former President Rainbow Dash, who got only 31.3% and got only 29 delegates. So Nathan Delaney doing very well as a second candidate, even if he's not chosen as first. He's still very well as secondary. So that is something that we've been seeing all throughout the night. It's been very competitive, very highly competitive. So something that is not unexpected, but still astonishing how tight the election is and how close the result is so far in the Democratic primary. Now let's take a look back in 2024 for the Democratic primary result in Colorado. In Colorado here, the former president has won the state of Colorado with 60% of the vote. To Tulsi Gabbard's 40%. Obviously, both candidates have underperformed over. However, one of them, the second number 1, 2, has overperformed Tulsi Gabbard's expectation in the state of Colorado. So that is something that's still very significant. If you go back another 4 more years to the Democratic primary result in the state of Colorado, Let's take a look at Colorado here. The former president, Christopher Oliva, he won with 52.6% of the vote here in the state of Colorado. Both candidates have underperformed both parties and both candidates in the top two. So it is very interesting to see how that plays out. So let's take a look at the GOP and see if that is going to be somewhat similar, or whether or not we can expect similar trends. So in Colorado in 2020, Skylar B. Bennett has actually won the state with 26.7% vote. If Skylar B. Bennett is able to hold on and is able to do that again or repeat this margin, she might very well pull another upset in the state of Colorado. In Colorado in 2020, it gave us delegates to Skylar. Fast forward 4 years later in the GOP primary, we can now say that Mike Shepard also won Colorado, bucking the trend of going to Skylar B. Bennett, who only got 3.7% of the vote in the state of Colorado in 2024. But in fast forward to 2020, another 4 years later in the GOP primary, I'll take a look here. Jeffrey Lee had also bucked the trend of the national trends here. He had narrowly won the state of Colorado with 50.02% to my 49.94%. So it appears to us that Colorado, if it's not a highly competitive election, Colorado can be one of those states that could upset the nation or surprise people. So if that is the case tonight, we could expect Republican primary Skylar Bennett or Lee Deldon or Iron Smith to pull an upset against John Stoppel. The question is, can John Stoppel continue to trend and the momentum in the state of Colorado, or will he be subjected to what we're going to see tonight? So that is something that we're going to be waiting on and see if the trends are going to continue or is going to start shifting or changing. So let's see what the results here. We just got the results out of the state of Colorado. We can now project that Lee Deldon has won exactly 50% of the vote in the state of Colorado with 19 delegates. Iron Smith not too far behind with 9 delegates, and John Stoppel at 9 delegates as well, both getting roughly around 25% of the popular vote, with Skylar Bennett getting 0. So again, Colorado gave us delegates to Skylar Bennett in 2020, but has refused to do so every other election since then. However, in Colorado, it has bucked the trend again. It has been the current person leading on Super Tuesday night. We can now say that that is the result here. Lee Deldon has won the state of Colorado. He has flipped that state into his column. He got an additional boost in the delegate count total, with 265 delegates going to Stoppel and 165 delegates going to Lee Deldon, 45 delegates going to Skylar, and Iron Smith at 41 delegates. So this is a great night for the Smith campaign. They're definitely upping their game in terms of people choosing them. The question is, can they have people choose them as number one? Going into the other states in the future, a lot of states are a winner-take-all delegate system. If you're not number one, you don't win any delegates at all. Where the Democratic Party primary, most of the states there in the Democratic primary are actually proportional, and you could win more delegates. That's why many candidates are easier to win and run in, just say, the Democratic primary than it is in the Republican primary, because it's easier to become a nominee, a presidential frontrunner for the Democrats is for the Republican. Okay, so Colorado, Lee Deldon has won their state with 24.9% of the popular vote here, winning roughly around the same margin that he lost in California. So that is very interesting. It bucked the trend. This is probably the biggest. Yeah, this is actually the biggest win for Deldon since South Carolina. But I had a very significant one, whereas California was the biggest win for Stoppel. That mattered more because it had more of the delegate prize. But for the Democratic primary here, when you look at the result, the delegate count total for each candidate, we had Bashir won. His biggest state tonight out of all of them that he won was actually tonight, in the state of Alaska. That was his biggest win tonight so far in the state of Alaska. Not that much of an electoral prize for Bashir, but nonetheless, it's three delegates could break or make the difference here. However, for Delaney, his biggest prize yet was coming out of the state of California, which is also a big need, which is really a big need for his campaign. He has won 245 delegates to 170 delegates for Bashir. That was something that he needed. He got it. So got the big state. That was mattered more than anything. You can win as many of the little states as possible. If you don't win the big state, it does not matter how popular you are. nationwide. You can lose the popular vote and not win. You can win the popular vote but lose the delegate count total and still not be the nominee. So that is very interesting. We'll see what the results come in. Right now, we are expecting Maine results to come in right now, so we're going to watch that play out. Let's see if we call Maine right now. No, we cannot call Maine right now, but Leo is about to make the projection, so we are going to wait on that call and see whether or not he's going to call the state of Maine. We're watching to see as the results tick in. So I guess he abandoned his ability to make that call. So I guess we are waiting for the Associated Press from Leo's campaign, or Leo Associated Press to make the call. But right now we have not yet made the call yet for the state of Maine for the Democratic primary. So we are going to go ahead, and as we wait, we're going to go take a look at the 2032 forecast at the moment. So in the 2032 forecast, we can now project that at the moment, if the election were to happen today, the Republicans will be over 270 electoral votes needed to become the next president of the United States, with 279 to 137 electoral votes. However, when all the tallies are totaled up and whoever candidate is leading or whatever party is leading each state, that is still considered toss-up, but toss-up is now 122. We can actually state that at the Electoral College, when it all said and done, if the election was to happen today, we can say that definitively that 226 electoral votes will go toward the Democrats, and the Republicans will get 312 electoral votes for the Republican Party candidate if the election was held today. The big states that were big shockers so far was the state of Arizona, Texas, going towards tilt Democrat, whereas Louisiana being very close and still leaning tilt Republican. We have Nebraska State Congressional District leaning tilt Republican. We have Minnesota leaning tilt Democrat. Wisconsin lean Republican. Michigan likely Republican. North Carolina likely Republican. Georgia likely Republican. We have here Virginia tilt Republican. Maryland, Delaware, Colorado, Virginia. Yeah, hold on. My apologies. We have here Maryland, Delaware, and Connecticut all being tilt Republican. We have a big flip as well from the state of New York being tilt Republican. We have here New Hampshire being tilt Republican as well, and Nevada being likely Republican at this point in time if the election was held today, and New Mexico being a lean Democrat. So as of right now, if the election was held, we can expect 226 electoral votes for the Democrats and 312 electoral votes for the Republican Party if the election was to happen today, which is ironically the same electoral margin in 2024 in real life. So in the state of Maine, we can actually now call that this is another state that has been won by the Delaney camp. He has won the state of Maine. And so we are going to actually take a look at what the margin was in Maine. So actually, Delaney was able to win Maine by just 9 percentage points. So let's go and take a look in the state of Maine's results right now. So Nathan Delaney wins Maine in the ranked choice voting. We have here Nathan Delaney gets only 36.21% popular vote, and Andy Beshear at 36.52% of the popular vote. And Eleanor Templeton getting an actually surprising amount of 27.27% of the popular vote here in the state of Maine. When ranked choice voting, Eleanor Templeton gets the least amount and ends up in the second round of voting. Nathan Delaney gets 54.5% and Andy Beshear at 45.5% of the vote in the state of Maine. So Nathan Delaney is awarded 13 delegates and Andy Beshear at 11 delegates, increasing both of their totals and margin. So that is very interesting to say the least how that is the play in, but we can now project that Nathan Delaney is now 450 delegates and Andy Beshear at 369 delegates. It's still less than 100 delegate margin. If Andy Beshear is able to narrow that gap, that would be very significant nonetheless. But Nathan Delaney has, at the moment, 47.9% of the popular vote, and Andy Beshear at 37.6% of the popular vote. And Philip at only just 2.9% of the popular vote, and Eleanor Templeton at 10.7% of the popular vote, and uncommitted at 1%. So that is the Republican primary. So let's take a look at the Republican primary here in the state of Maine. We cannot yet call the state of Maine for any candidate at this point in time, with only 20 delegates remaining. So let's go and compare the results in the state of Maine to other data from the past. So let's take a look, last to the past. So back in 2028 in the state of Maine, when we go and look for the Democratic primary results here in the state of Maine, former president won this again with 39.95%, and Vice President Lenore Kim at 39.97% of the vote in the state of Maine. However, in the second round, the former president gets 60% of the vote, and former Vice President Lenore Kim gets 40%. When it comes back into 2032, though, Nathan Delaney underperformed the former president by roughly 6 percentage points, and Andy Beshear overperformed the former vice president by 6 percentage points as well. So that is a good sign for the Andy Beshear campaign. Even though he lost Maine, it is still a good sign in the state of Maine that he was able to narrow that gap significantly. Even though he lost it, he was able to get more of the delegate count total and the popular vote. So that is very significant going in. Now, when we compare this back to 2024, though, for the Democratic primary in the state of Maine, the former president got 61.1% with 15 delegates, and Tulsi Gabbard at 38.9%, getting only 9 delegates. So this is still underperformance for candidates, but an overperformance for Andy Beshear in the state of Maine. So that is going to be very significant. So now let's go and take a look at the GOP primary in the state of Maine here in 2024. Diego pulled an upset, so this might be an upset state. In the first round of voting, Diego only got 20% of the popular vote, and Mike Shepard at 40%. Both of them advanced to the second round, and Diego pulled out a surprising victory, an hour one nonetheless, but still able to pull out a win and got all 20 delegates. Whoever wins the popular vote in Maine, even though the right-wing choice voting, is the winner-take-all delegate system. So Diego won this in a surprise victory, win all 20 delegates, and Mike Shepard at 46.7% of the vote here. So that is quite enough to be a narrow margin. Fast forward to 2028 for the Republicans here in the state of Maine. Louisa Meyer pulled out a big win out of Maine with 60% of the popular vote, winning all 20 delegates, and Jeffrey Lee at 20.1% of the popular vote in Maine, and 19.9% in Maine as well for Skylar B. Bennett. As of right now, Maine, when the Republican primary is not that competitive, it goes normally to the same trend. When it is competitive, it tends to buck the trend. So let's see if Maine buck the trend or stays with the trend. So as of right now, we can now make a call out of the state of Maine for the Republican primary. We can now call the state of Maine for John Stupel. John Stupel has won Maine by 24.9% of the popular vote out of the state of Maine. So let's go and take a look in Maine. In Maine, primary results for the Republican primary here. John Stupel has won with 50% of the vote with all 20 delegates. Iron Smith not too far behind with 25.1% of the popular vote, and Lee Delden at 24.9%, and Skylar B. Bennett 0% of the popular vote so far. So Skylar B. Bennett having a bad night in the state of Maine. However, John Stupel has able to buck the trend and is able to continue the trend. So as of right now, Maine seems to be indicating that John Stupel is very well on track to become the clear frontrunner and a clear favorite for the Republican primary. Like I said, Maine and other states as well, if they go in one way or the other, and it's a clear trend here that other states like Maine, Colorado, all those, when they start to go, and especially the swing one, the that tend to cause upset and not go with the one who is the front runner, those states in particular, if they are competitive and there's a competitive primary, they tend to do upset. But when there is not a competitive primary, they tend to go with the candidate who is leaning in all the states, and the trend seems to be matching that. Maine is one of those states. However, Maine has gone to John Stupel tonight, continuing with the frontrunner trend. That is very significant to say none the least, because when you look at the results and you start to look at the actual map, it starts to look a lot more red and a lot less blue or cyan. So that is something that's really significant nonetheless. Skylar B. Bennett is only able to win one state tonight, and same thing for Iron Smith, but yet John Stupel is he is going to be a clear favorite. despite that he only won a very small percentage of the popular vote in the Republican primary. But you have a very small percentage in the popular vote in 2020, and in any election really for the Republican primary. So when Skylar beat Bennett back in 2024, won with 36.8% of the popular vote. In 2028, the GOP primary winner won with only 60.3% of the popular vote. Back in 2020 for the Republican primary, they won only 36.2% of the popular vote. So in 2036, 2032, as of right now, John Stupel is overperforming both 2020 and 2024 Republican primary winners. However, he is underperforming 2028 Republican primary frontrunner. So that is very interesting to say, none the least. If you go to the Democratic primary, start to see the popular vote margin for the candidate who won. For the 2032 candidate, he's only had 47.9% of the popular vote so far. For the Democratic primary back in 2028, Rainbow Dash won 48% of the popular vote in that primary for the Democratic primary, excuse me. So we compare it back to 2032, we have 37.9. So roughly on even with Rainbow Dash, the former president. So Delaney is running even with Rainbow Dash election. As of right now, we are now officially going to call that Nathan Delaney seems to be at this point in time the clear front runner for the Democratic Party, but it is highly competitive. So that is something that we can call. However, back in 2024, for the Democratic primary, former president has won with 84.7% of the primary vote in the Democratic primary. So he has won all that. So it's very significant. 2024 and 2020 was an outlier for the Democratic primary that had a very popular candidate. So therefore, no candidate who can reach the margin of Oliva is unexpected and not that surprising. However, back in 2020, Oliva only got 62.2% of the popular vote. So it's still very much significant nonetheless, but something to be reminded about. So 2032 seemed to be closely matching 2028 in the Democratic primary, and the Republican primary seemed to be closely matching what we saw back in 2024 and 2020 results for the Republican primary, but not the 2028. So if anything, we're going to be looking for 2024 and 2024 better understanding how the result is going and how it's playing out tonight. Let's see if we got another state call. Okay, so we have one more result out. We can now make a call in the state of, let's see, we have one more state results here. We can now make a projection in the state of Massachusetts. Massachusetts has been won by Bashir. Bashir has won Massachusetts. Primary, they won with 46 delegates to Bashir 26 and Templeton 20 delegates. With 92 delegates up for grab, Bashir won this state by 21.4%. He has overperformed his margin in the state of Alaska, so this is his biggest win so far. So let's go and take a look and see how he did in Massachusetts. So Andy Bashir got 50% of the popular vote in Massachusetts, where Nathan Delaney only got 28.6% and only getting 26 delegates, and Eleanor Templeton only got 20% 20 delegates and only got 21.4%. So this is a good night for the Templeton campaign. Not so much a good night for Nathan Delaney campaign in the state of Massachusetts. Let's go and take a look at the delegate count total on the map. You still have fill in terms of the popular vote. I don't know what's going on here. He's editing it and it's showing us like something weird going on. But Nathan Delaney is now at 476 delegates. Andy Bashir at 415, getting a lot closer. And Eleanor Templeton at 12.2% of the popular vote and only getting 46 delegates, and Philip Reed at 46 delegates as well. Don't know how that's possible, but Eleanor Templeton seemed to have just overtaken Reed in the delegate count and the popular vote count, and also uncommitted. So that's a good night for the Templeton campaign. Let's go on over and let's see if we got anything yet from the Republican camp. We did not. So let's see in the state of Massachusetts for the Republican Party here. They have 40 delegates up for grab. Let's go and take a look at 2028. for the Republican. Let's take a look at Massachusetts here. Let's see how Massachusetts went in 2028. Louisa May got 62.5% of the vote in Massachusetts, but only won an all-outright winner-take-all delegate in Massachusetts. He won all 40 delegates back in 2028 and 2024. The GOP primary, Massachusetts was won by, let's see, Mike Shepard, who won just 51.6% of the vote, getting 40% of the popular vote in the state of Massachusetts, compared to 4 years later in 2028, getting 62.5%. When you compare the margin in 2032, we actually don't have the margin just yet. But let's take a look at 2020. Let's see if we can get a clear understanding, clear idea in the state of Massachusetts. We have here Skylar B. Bennett getting 26.7% of the vote, and Donald Reagan at 20% of the vote here. So I could definitely say that as of right now, Massachusetts looking very similar to John Stupel margin. If he's able to get there, we kind of expect this type of margin for John Stupel. However, if Stupel doesn't perform as well, you might be able to see more of the closer margin, or even better yet, 2020 margin, where it's highly competitive and it goes proportional. Don't know how it goes proportional, but that doesn't seem to be the case, because back then in 2020, not all states were was proportional. Now it's winner take all. So this is going to change. It's just subjected to change. And this aspect, if it was to happen again, Skylar Bennett will win all the delegates in Massachusetts. But that is yet to be seen. That is yet to be remained. So that is something that we are going to be hearing from the Leonard Association Press. So let's go and take a look back at the Democratic primary, though, in the state of Massachusetts, because it is very important that we go and take a look at Massachusetts. So let's look at the results there. We have the Andy Beshear at 50%, exactly 50%, and Nathan Delaney at 28.6%. The vote here in Massachusetts. Let's go and take a look for the Democrats here in the state of Massachusetts. So in the state of Massachusetts here, Rainbow Dash only got 44.4% with 48 delegates. Illinois came at 38.9% with 42 delegates. Eleanor Templeton with 2 delegates in the state of Massachusetts. When we fast forward that 4 years later, Andy Beshear overperformed the former president, and Nathan Delaney underperformed the vice president, while Eleanor Templeton had overperformed her margin back in 2028. When we go back to 2024, though, for the Democratic primary, when the former President Oliver was on the ticket, he got 64.3% of the popular vote and 59 delegates, and Tulsi Gabbard at 35.7% of the popular vote and 33 delegates. So that is what we are expecting from the state of Massachusetts at this point in time. If anything, we're expecting more so the margin of, let's see, we have the margin, so I don't know why I'm guessing. So Templeton. So, excuse me. So Massachusetts was won with 50% of the popular vote. That closely resembled, I wouldn't say it resembled like Dash's margin, but closer to Dash's margin. Let's see 2020 result. Let's see how Oliver ran in first election. See if that matches in any way. In Massachusetts, he got exactly 50%, and 28% exactly for Nathan Delaney was 2020 result. So the state of Massachusetts went the same way and the same route as in 2020. So that is very interesting. However, we can say the delegate count is indeed different this time. And Beshear only got 46 delegates compared to 2020, getting 49. Jack Hitt got 28. Delaney gets less of 26. Eleanor Templeton gets 20. Eleanor and Lenard can get 15. So still very interesting to see how that played out, but that's how the proportional system works. Very interesting nonetheless. Very interesting. So let's see. We're going to make our first last state call. It's going to be Minnesota. Well, actually, no, I think we just called the last state, actually. So we just have to wait on the Republican Party primary. Then I think we are done for the night. So we are waiting to hear from Massachusetts at this moment for the Republican primary. We are waiting to see the results here. We can now make the clear projection. It looked as if Massachusetts had went to Lee Delden. Lee Delden had won another state tonight for Super Tuesday, his second Super Tuesday state. He won this by a very now 0.9%. He got 16 delegates, and John Super with the 16 delegates as well. We just saw the map get updated. So let's go and take you now to the delegate count total in the state of Massachusetts. So the state of Massachusetts is very competitive. Lee Delden 40.55% of the popular vote with 16 delegates, with John Stupel at 39.65% of the popular vote here. Again, 16 delegates, very close margin, and Aaron Smith at 19.76% of the popular vote here, and only got 8 delegates. Still a good night for the Aaron Smith campaign. He's still able to gain some delegates, where Skylar B. Bennett is non-existent. The campaign right now is a complete other joke. So that is something that is very interesting, very significant. So we can call and project that Massachusetts has gone Republican. Well, in the Republican primary, had gone back to Lee Delden. Lee Delden had, Lee Delden underperformed Jeffrey Lee and Louis Amaya. Well, he had overperformed Jeffrey Lee, but underperformed Louis Amaya in the Republican primary back in 2028. Back in 2024, though, we can now say that in Massachusetts, he had underperformed Mike Shepard margin back in Massachusetts. I think in order for you to win all of Massachusetts delegates, you need to at least have the 50% threshold or more. You need the majority in order to win, winner take all, or it goes proportional. That's what it seemed to be in this election for Massachusetts, and that is exactly what happened tonight. No candidate was able to reach a clear threshold, therefore they were not able to activate all winner take all. So we can now call that race. We are now going to watch the final results kick in. Right now, John Stupel still in the lead right now with 301 delegates. Lee Delden at 181. And Skylar B. Bennett in second place right now with 45 delegates. In fourth place with 45 delegates. Aaron Smith at just 49 delegates as well. And John Stupel only had 38.2% of the popular vote. Lee Delden at 36.5% of the popular vote. Scott Bennett at 10.8%, and Aaron Smith at 12.6% of the popular vote. Very significant, very important. Let's compare this to the polling data. Let's see if the polling data has predicted this, or if the predicted data is back for polls. So let's go and take a look. So for the Democratic primary here, let's take a look at the Republican primary already there. So for TNN, it projected at Lee Delden will be roughly around 27.8%. Let's go and take a look at the popular vote here. Tuesday delegate, not quite. However, the popular vote seemed to be a little closer, but not exactly on par. When it comes to Super, 38.9% of the popular vote here, it seemed to be exactly to the 9 with John Stupel for TNN. So TNN had gotten the popular vote so far Tuesday with John Stupel, but not so much with Lee Delden. In terms of Skylar Bennett, it only got 15.9% of the popular vote. We have here Skylar Bennett only getting 10.8% of the popular vote here. So Skylar Bennett has been over-estimated. Same thing with Delden being over-estimated. However, John Smith only got 19.5%. He is also over expectation with only just 12.6% of the popular vote. So Aaron Smith has overperformed. Skylar Bennett has underperformed. So that is very interesting to see how that poll went into effect. However, when it comes down to the averages, though, for the polling data for the Republican primary, Lee Delden at just 33.6%, John Stupel at 25%. That's for Delden of 8.6. However, we did not see that translate tonight because when you look at the popular vote results, John Stupel is currently in the lead in the popular vote, with Skylar Bennett at 21.6% of the popular vote in terms of average. He's also very behind in the popular vote, and John Smith at just 14.8%. So it seemed to be that it's accurate for some people, not so accurate for other people. Let's go and see if that is true for the Democratic primary as well. Again, the result is still kicking in. The other half will come in tomorrow night. So Nathan Delaney at 45.2%. What do we have Delaney at right now? We have Delaney roughly around 33.4% even, like 34.3%. 4% even right there. He only has 45.2% of the popular vote, and TNN has him at only 11.1%. That's a really bad call. For Bashir, though, he is at 49.9%. When it comes to the vote here, he is underperforming by 10 percentage points when Nathan Delaney has been well underestimated in the TNN polling data. For Templeton now, he was overestimated with 22.2% of vote here. And when it comes to the translation here, he only got 12.2%. So really, Andy Bashir and Eleanor Templeton have been overestimated, while Nathan Delaney has been underestimated in the polling data from TNN. However, you will say that the Illinois campaign has got this more closely tight. He got 38% of the popular vote for Bashir, giving Delaney a 6-point spread. Go and take a look here. Andy Bashir is at 39.3%, which is the more accuracy rate for Bashir, and Delaney 44%. When you go and compare those to Nathan Delaney, he is roughly around that same margin. When you compare this to Templeton now at just 17.1%, let's see, hold on. He got 19% for Templeton. Templeton is underperforming polls for both TNN and Illinois Kim. When it comes to the Republican, though, let's go and take a look and see how his campaign is performing for the Republican Party in terms of the popular vote here and whether or not that is matching for the primary. We have here, he had 29% for Delden. Let's see what Delden got. Delden overperformed in the Republican primary, so he did not capture the margin that he was expecting with the TNN. For John Stupel, though, with the 38.2% of the vote here, John Stupel on average only got 14% in Leo's poll, which is just 14%. For Bennett, though, we have here 21.6% of on average, with only 29 for Bennett. Bennett only got 10.8% of the vote here, and Smith got 14.8% on average and 14% in the vote here. In the vote tally, we have here Iron Smith only got 12.6%. So it looks like the polls are wrong. It looks like the polls for Leo is a little bit more accurate in favor of the Democrats, not so accurate for the Republican. But that is very interesting nonetheless. So we are going to end tonight's live. We want to thank you all for all the help and support and love that you have given us to both me and Leo. We want to say thank you and thank you for coming on tonight. Have a great night.